Rush's album Roll the Bones was an electrifying album that blended dynamic melodies with thought-provoking lyrics. Released in 1991, this powerhouse collection showcased the legendary trio at their creative peak. Geddy Lee's distinctive vocals and bass lines, Alex Lifeson's soaring guitar riffs, and Neil Peart's masterful drumming created an unforgettable listening experience. Roll the Bones invited fans to embrace life's uncertainties with a spirit of adventure and optimism. From the infectious title track to the introspective Bravado, this album was a testament to Rush's enduring artistry and musical innovation. Here's an archival recording of the band promoting the release on radio CILQ-FM out of Toronto, Ontario.
Neil Peart.
Anyone who's been a fan of ours for any amount of time knows that the only thing to expect is no expectations, Anything could happen, and if we like it, it will happen.
Neil is a dedicated craftsman when it comes to his writing.
I like to think that it's more gaining technique, really. It's 10 more years of practice, of learning. Like Ghost of a Chance is a perfect example. I've always shied away from love songs and even mentioning the word in songs because it's so much cliched, and until I thought that I'd found a new way to approach it, or a new nuance of it to express, I was not going to write one of those kind of songs. And Ghost of a Chance fit right in with my overall theme of randomness and contingency and so on. But at the same time, it was a chance for me to write about love in a different way, of saying, well, here are all these things that we go through in life, and the people we meet is all by chance, and the corners that we turn and the places we go, and the people we meet there, all those things are so random, and yet through all of that, people do meet each other, and if they work at it, they can make that encounter last. So I was saying there's a ghost of a chance that it can happen, and the odds are pretty much against it, but at the same time, that ghost of a chance sometimes does come through, and people do find each other and stay together.
After more than 20 years and 19 albums, it's rather remarkable to find a band as full of enthusiasm as Rush is. Guitarist Alex Lifeson feels the group's rekindled spirit started with the 1989 album Presto.
And then when we started working on this record, that enthusiasm carried over. And it was really then that we started to think in a much longer term. Rather than record to record, we were thinking 3, 4, 5 records into the future. And that's exciting for us. It's been really a long time. But we've learned over the past year or so that touring can still be fun if it's done properly and you have the right attitude about it. And recording was never really a problem. We always enjoyed recording. But we're becoming more efficient at that, and we're enjoying it more because of that. We're better prepared, and we're taking a slightly more laid-back, easy attitude about it, rather than being so microscopic and meticulous about the placement of every single note and beat. It's kind of kicking back a bit and letting the feel come through. And if it's not as perfect and exact as maybe our approach has been in the past, it doesn't really matter anymore. You sit back and listen to it, and really when it comes down to it, someone who's listening to the record is not going to really notice those things. But the approach with this one, and it's evidenced in the fact that we did all our recording in 2 weeks rather than 2.5 months, that this attitude is a much better attitude. And you still get the results, and you still have fun, and you feel more up through the whole process of recording. So it really is a very concentrated, exhausting thing to do.
Neil Peart tells us about the album's title.
Roll the Bones is the perfect title because through all of the thoughts that I go through on the album about all these nasty things that happen and all these terrible things that could happen to you, and a drunk in a stolen car could run over you on your way home tomorrow night, and you could have the best laid plans in the world for what you want to do, but there's still that element of chance that it could all go wrong. But the bottom line of that is take the chance, roll the bones, If it's a random universe and that's terrifying and it makes you neurotic and everything, never mind. You really have to just take the chance, or else nothing's going to happen. The bad thing might not happen, but the good thing won't happen either. So that's really the only choice you have.
When it comes to its audience, Rush enjoys not only an incredible loyalty, but quite the span in terms of age.
And I look out in our audience when we're playing, and I see people in their teens that literally weren't even born when we started touring the United States. And on the other hand, I see people who are obviously our age and have grown up with us. We've been fortunate in the communication factor, and also because our music is so sincerely open, that we've reflected their lives and in some cases been the soundtrack of their lives right the way along, just as we've been the soundtrack of our own lives. So that's pretty gratifying, but we're very responsive to what's going on around us. And in the late 70s, the tremendous upheavals of punk music and new wave and that, and then world music after that, and then what's happening now with hip-hop and everything. We're listening to that and we're responding to it, and there's a new rebirth of guitar music right now, which of course is a much shorter step for us to adapt to or to be inspired by, but at the same time it's happening and we're listening to it, and because we're listening to it and enjoying it, it becomes part of our aesthetic of what we think rock music should be. We incorporate all that, and then it just becomes part of the big melting pot, and if we ever need any of those kinds of influences, we can, pull them out of our toolbox.
When it comes to Rush's image, Geddy thinks that while they are certainly committed artists, they also have a fun side.
I don't know how we got this image. Maybe we wore too many robes in the 70s. But they have this super serious image of us, and it's so far from what our relationship is, because a sense of humor is really one of the strongest parts of our relationship. If things aren't going good, one of us is going to start cracking a joke about something. And I think you have to be. We really don't take ourselves seriously as people. We take what we do seriously, but, there's a time for being serious. And I think people that say there isn't are kidding themselves. I'm spending a lot of time out of my life to do this. That's serious. To give up that much of your life for any kind of work, you've got to feel like the work is worthwhile. It's fun to have a laugh, and we do have a good time doing it, but there's also a side of it that you have to say to yourself, this is meaningful. This justifies the amount of time spent on it, because, time is the most precious commodity there is.
With Presto, we decided that the guitar was going to play a more predominant role again, that the keyboards were going to go on second, and that they were just going to be filler enhancements for the coloring of the song, rather than to play a major thematic role. And even more so with Roll the Bones. The guitar even comes up a little bit more. And I think this is probably a direction we'll continue, because I think we've realized that the core of the band is drums, bass, and guitar, and that's really what the important elements are. And that's really what should be developed. Feels better to me. It's a lot, and it's the same for the other guys. They'll say the same thing. Having the guitar up there, there's just so much emotion in that instrument. And, you play off that. Everybody plays off that. And it really has to be in that role.
Geddy offers some thoughts on the future for Rush.
With us, I don't really know what's going to happen record to record in terms of complexity or texturally or, whatever. But I think you have to allow yourself the kind of scope and the opportunity to be influenced by certain things, whether good or bad. And we allowed ourselves to be influenced by synthesizers and that kind of orchestration, and it was a fascinating time, and I think we did some really interesting things with that. At a certain point you go, it's time for a change again, and I'm feeling like a slave to this equipment. It's not really enjoying the way I'm using it. I feel like I'm a little bit trapped by it. So whether it's less or more, or just a reaction to all that technology, it was important for us to streamline and get back to some kind of organic style of writing that seemed to be more expressive and less demanding texturally. I think the reason that we still are together is because when we sit down to write a record, stuff starts coming out, and we get excited about that, and that is the reason that writing period is so enjoyable for us, because there is this creative spark that we have with each other, and a remarkably similar musical direction.
Be sure to catch Rush in concert on their Roll the Bones tour. I'm John Derringer.